Welcome to This Week in Habsland. I am Jordan and he is Brian, and we are here following the Canadiens' 3-1 loss in Game 2 of the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs of the Washington Capitals. Canadiens are now down 2-0 as the series shifts to Montreal. Brian, an interesting game, and I will posit it like this, and you tell me if this is... We don't do headlines anymore, but like the Habs lost this game in the 5 minutes after they scored their goal and took the lead. The whole second period was it was like peak deer in the headlights moment, that entire period. But really those 3 to 5 minutes after they scored and concede back-to-back goals in whatever it was, 65 seconds, that's where they lost the game.
I agree with you 100%. That's what it took mathematically and just also energy-wise. And then by the time they woke up in the third, it was too little too late. And sometimes you can claw your way back, sometimes you can't. Tonight they couldn't. And in that minute, I think it was, a minute apart, those two goals?
Yeah.
Man, that just absolutely crushes you right at the start of a... Because that was that pretty early in the second period? Or that was kind of middle of the road of the second period?
All of it happens in the first 3 or 4 minutes of that second period. The Canadiens take their first lead of the series on just I wouldn't say typical goal by the third line, which we should say the Dvorak line played a great game. I said after game 1, they played really, really poorly, and I was very concerned. They answered the bell today. I still think the Suzuki line was better and used in bigger situations.
Yeah.
But it shouldn't be missed by people that the closing lineup had Dvorak and Gallagher out there in the 6-on-5 with the goalie pulled. Only one defenseman out there, obviously Lane Hudson. So they get that goal from the Dvorak line, and then something awoke in the Washington Capitals, and the game got super wide open, which, hey, look, sometimes you flip a coin that might favor the Canadiens, but not tonight. Tonight, the Capitals just came, they brought it, and if not for Samuel Montembeault, it's not 2-1, it's probably 4-1 by the time they make it to the second intermission.
Absolutely. And one thing Washington did really well to limit the Montreal Canadiens' chances too was blocking a ton of shots, blocking twice as many as the Canadiens did. And you could tell in the shot chart the way that the game was going period to period as well, because when the Canadiens finally woke up and tried to make up for the fact that they had given up more than double the amount of shots in the first 2 periods, and it was so clear watching the game that the depth of the Capitals is just going to be so hard for the Canadiens to contend with. I do think that this will shift to a different series when we get home ice advantage and therefore can sort of decide on the matchups. I think the matchups killed a couple of the lines. Did you like, by the way, the changing of the lines? I assume you did, because you basically called it last episode, like this is what they should do, with the exception of Jack-Eye coming into the lineup, which we didn't see. We both kind of wanted to see. The lines got shifted in a way that you had kind of predicted.
Yeah, I was hoping that we would answer the question to how do you get Demidov into this series, and how St. Louis set it up to start was Evans with Heineman and Demidov, which I think was, I won't take full credit for it. I think I proposed 2 or 3 different options. This was one of them, and it was really how can we unlock Demidov, and that trio was fine, but I think a few more iterations, and we're obviously going to get to Patrick Laine. But if we can pump the brakes on that, everyone else is going to want to scream about Patrick Laine for 20 minutes. I will challenge ourselves to rein it in on that. What they ended up finding in the third period, because they essentially just roll 3 lines, and that new third line, if we're considering the Dvorak line, at least for tonight, the second line, was Newhook, Evans, and Demidov. And in small sample, 4+ minutes of 5-on-5 time, they had a 9-4 advantage in shot attempts. There's a bit of life in there, right? There's a bit of...
Yeah,
you found something. Now, of course, that there's no fourth line. You cannot. Like we were just looking at the shift log. Nick Suzuki played 8 shifts in the third period. He played, I think, 24 minutes. Yeah, just under 24 minutes. Laugh at 22.5. Caulfield broke 20 as well. You obviously need to find a fourth line, but I think we have, for the time being, like I would really hope that this revamped Evans line makes its way back to Montreal intact. And now the challenge for St. Louis is to find a fourth line that can hold water. And now that's going to be easier at home, like you said. Like this is the time to do it. And it could be Kapanen. I'm not sure. But at least there was some juice there. You finally noticed Demidov, really, for the first time in the series in the third period.
Yeah.
You finally notice him wiggling around. There's that one shift with Hudson with about 5 or 6 minutes left where Hudson has the huge dangle, but it starts off because Demidov makes time and space to eventually get everybody settled and get the puck to Hudson. So I liked what I saw out of that revamped third line. What about you?
I really liked it too. And what I liked about Demidov, you pointed out the flash is kind of coming back, is he's adjusting to the game bit by bit, because the Capitals do a really, really good job of just smothering you immediately. As soon as you cross their blue line, they're on you immediately. And Demidov, I think, was having a hard time with that. He would choke with the puck and not try and do too much. But he's not himself when he's not trying to do too much. That's who he is. He's got to try and deke a guy. He had a sick deke at one point in the third period that nearly prompted a chance. Didn't end up coming to fruition. But, like, it's working. Yeah. It's a very small sample size. As you said, now's the time to do it. Not only the time to do it because you're coming back to Montreal and you get the matchups, but you're down 0-2, so you got to try something. Something has to change here. I do want to circle back to Jack Eye at one point, just on the thought of things having to change. But absolutely, what a relief it is for Martin St. Louis. Now he doesn't just have one sort of functioning line. He has more. Like, that was the issue in game one. They found one very functioning, I would say, like, dominating line, who basically didn't have as dominating a night tonight. I like that they started all three periods. But his problem now is, okay, I got to solve two more lines instead of three. Maybe by game 4, all the lines will be figured out.
Yeah, we'll see about that. Like, at the end of the day, if this is a solution to the top 9, that's fine. Figuring out a fourth line, we'll see. Also, I don't think they'll actually say anything, but we are recording this before Martin St. Louis goes for his post-game press conference. There is a chance that, Line A was favoring. Obviously, we have to get into the reffing. I usually don't want to bring it up, but there's 2 plays that drove me bonkers. Well, honestly more, but really 2. There's a chance that Line A is pretty banged up at this point, and how much of that led to his benching in the third, I'm not sure. But figuring out a fourth line is not the end of the world. That said, and again, that the dysfunction of the second line, maybe it's fixed for now. The second period, though, like, if we can focus a bit more on that, because they got caved in. They got destroyed.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, there was the Capitals were having half a dozen slot shots, or just like completely open. And then right before the Canadiens scored, Ovechkin was wide open, completely unmarked.
Yeah.
And that, 30, not even 30 seconds, but 15 seconds later, the Canadiens score a goal. But that just kept happening over and over and over. And it was really a microcosm of like turnovers and breakouts, unimaginative power play, terrible second line, like all the bad things were coming back to light. And I don't think all of that was solved. Like, there were still issues with that in the third. And it's not just David Savard, who, yes, he looked pretty poor. I don't think he cracked 10 minutes in this game. But it's also like Lane Hudson was making bad decisions. And he made great decisions in the third, and he might have been one of their 3 best players today. Skaters, again, I will mention their number 1 player today was Samuel Montembeault. We can probably talk about him a bit. But all in all, like, this is how a team learns, and I am finding myself, Brian, and I don't know about you, trying to figure out kind of the balance between small, like big picture, and kind of focusing on the micro right now. Because big picture, it's all gravy. We're learning a lot.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
When we focus on the micro, it's like how, and not even just from a podcasting perspective, but just from a fan perspective, like how critical should I be treating some of these moments here? I know I'm struggling with it when I see, whether it's Alex Newhook flubbing that, was it a one-timer in the...
basically a one-timer in the slot.
Yeah, with like 4 minutes left in the first period. Yeah. And then there's Anderson, just another breakaway chance, flubbing that one. The Evans hitting the post right before that. Like, some of that's bad luck, but then there's also the bad decision. So I've been struggling with, like, how much of it do I focus on, like, the small play-by-play where there is disappointing plays, and how much of it do I focus on the big picture at this stage, because we are in the playoffs. This is literally games that matter. The opportunity cost is keeping your season alive.
Yeah, and they can't possibly want anything more than that to keep their season alive. Another guy to add to that list, Slavkovsky, I think had 5 golden opportunities. Yeah. Whether it was a one-timer or a tip in the slot or just a puck lying in the slot, and Thompson was excellent tonight. Like you mentioned, Montembeault, Thompson was absolutely excellent. He made reaching sort of paddle save after a deflection that was just sick. Montembeault had that kick save down low as he's moving in the opposite direction. Like, that was really sick. The goaltending was awesome tonight, and it needed to be to keep this game 3-1. Ordinarily, a game with this many quality chances, especially for Washington, as you said, 4-1, maybe 5-1. the score increases from there. Do you want to jump to line A? Because I think
Yeah, I guess so. Like just on Monty, like huge save in the first on Beauvillier, and what was basically a recreation of the Demidov first goal from the game against Chicago, which I thought was kind of funny. And then I think the one you just mentioned, the tip save on the Strome deflection early in the second, which is when all the chaos is about to start happening. I think actually at that point the Canadiens had taken the lead. Monty was great. Again, no notes. Who would have thought this would have been a goalie duel? You know, we talked about it in the preview about like, okay, we think the Habs have the edge, and Monty has been about as, you know, if we're grading it, he's been A/A plus, like limit, right at that borderline there. Logan Thompson, maybe he got a little lucky on some of these plays here. I mean, certainly the post on Evans, but
sure, yeah.
Logan Thompson's been pretty darn good as well. Rebound control, both guys has sucked. I'll say that. But
that makes for a fun series.
Yeah, so like it's been a good goalie series.
Lots of chances.
Third period, Emil Heineman gets 2 shifts. Yoel Armia gets 1 shift. Patrick Laine doesn't play. So the Canadiens really rolled just 3 lines. Patrick Laine's expected goal percentage, when he is on the ice, the Canadiens' expected goal percentage through 2 games is 11.9%. So
that's very bad.
And we can even like dive further into that power play they had towards the end of the second period, where it's like there's a couple good moments there where like Caulfield's looking for Slav in front of the net on like a deflection, and then there's, you know, so that there's small moments there where they do something good, and then there's just to line it. Like if I have to watch one more bloody time the setup off the face-off of Suzuki to Hudson back to Suzuki, and then Hudson contorts his body a little bit, shifting towards the right side of the ice, immediately getting ready for the pass over. Like if I know the exact play, the Capitals know it in their sleep. It's like, I don't know what it is about Montreal Canadiens power plays between first it was Subban, then it was Weber, now it's Line A, and even a brief moment there with Caulfield of like, if we can set up a one-timer, that's it. That's plan A, B, and C. And he's not going right now. He's playing poorly. You know, like I don't know how much I really feel like bagging on him, but like he's not been good at basically any point in this series so far.
What's scaring me about him is he's starting to look like a player who these are his thoughts as he's on the ice. Me stand here, you pass me puck, me shoot puck.
Yeah.
That's like the whole thread of thought. And then when he gets possession in the defensive zone or the neutral zone, it's me carry puck into offensive zone and hold it, and then dot ellipse into nothing. So these are sort of basic things. Like if you don't have a play, dump it. It just seemed like tonight he was incapable of just making a decision. He was holding the puck way too long, and passes were available, and he wasn't choosing to put the puck there to a spot on the ice that had a better opportunity to score. And I don't know if it's selfishness. You mentioned that he's definitely ailing with some type of injury. I don't even know if I want to call it an injury, but like he's been banged up like crazy. So he's in a tough position where he comes back from an injury and has a huge amount of success, and then right in a huge lull where nothing was going right in the regular season, that's when the playoffs commence. And he's caught in this middle ground of not even having like a 5-on-5 thing to do. The only thing he can do is the power play. And when the power play doesn't work, what is Patrick Laine's contribution to the team? I also think that on the power play in general, having 2 guys that do the exact same thing in Laine and Caulfield, one is superfluous, and it's becoming clear which one of those 2 it is for the future, at least. Like, you know, they're in it together for this playoff run, and God, I hope Laine figures it out. But long term, these are sort of flashing red lights, these games for me. Playoff games where Laine is not contributing.
Yeah, this has honestly kind of felt like Cole Caulfield's semester abroad on the power play. Of like, we know you're going to go back to that spot next season, the season after that. We just want you to experience something different on the other side of the ice. What I was wondering, and we can pin this in with potentially with some refereeing discussion, they should have gotten to power play with about 2 or 3 minutes left after Caulfield gets suplexed into the ice and cross-checked in the face.
Yes.
Okay, put that to the side for a second. What I was asking myself the question, like, what's the power play at that point? Because obviously Laine's not on it, because even if like you don't want to bench him for that, like it would have just been irresponsible to bring a guy who hadn't played in probably 40 minutes of real time. But I was wondering that, I'm like, oh, like they might get a power play here that what the hell are they going to do? Like in terms of, you know, obviously like Demidov comes in and they put Caulfield back and it's just a quick flip or something like that. That was something that was kind of in my mind of like, and I mean, we can look forward to game 3 on that is, so what do you do with regards to the fourth line and with regards to the power play? Because that's the question that matters now, right? If you think you've solved, you have Suzuki's line, fantastic. We think we've solved the rest of the middle six. Dvorak line, Newhook, Evans, depending, whatever, with Demidov. What do you do with the fourth line? And the real question is, what are you doing with Patrik Laine?
It seems like the plan right about now is play them as little as possible until you get a power play, which the Canadiens got 2 tonight. There aren't many power plays to be had. If cross checks to the face, I mean, look, I'm not even surprised. We established it last episode. We talked about game 1. The line was set in the sand. Yeah. Cross checks to the face are not penalties. We knew this. They should be, but they weren't. So the Canadiens can't rely on that. They have to rely at 5-on-5 when you only have 3 lines that can run at 5-on-5 against the team with just very good depth and very good countering ability. Like, we haven't mentioned this yet, but Alex Ovechkin missed most of the shots he took. He took that one off the glass that sparked, like on the power play, that sparked Suzuki and Evans going back the other way. Evans makes that smart play to corral the puck when the 2-on-1 doesn't work and shoots it back to the defense. Like, really smart play by Jake Evans there. But all in all, Ovi wasn't even on, and They dominated us for most of the game. So imagine Ovechkin lands a few of those shots on net. Very different hockey game. So this is layers above. This team is layers above right now what we need to be at to be able to contend with them.
Yeah, and I don't think you're going to make up that entire gap. Like, you're not going to unearth something to fully combat what they have in defense. I thought PLD was just an absolutely perfect pest today. He was just living in front of Monty at every single moment that he could. I was happy Matheson gave it to him with I think it was about 6 or 7 minutes left in the game. It was like, finally someone did that. I'll just come out and say what everyone else is probably going to say of Kapanen, Heineman, Armia as the fourth line. And that means you're scratching Patrik Laine, because that's going to be the prevailing wisdom. It is 10:13 p.m. on Wednesday, April 23rd. I'm timestamping that. That's going to be what people are clamoring for.
Right.
Because today, those 3 guys, Laine, Heineman, Armia, played somewhere between 7.5 and 10 minutes. So can you trust a line that's centered by Oliver Kapanen to play 10 minutes? Right?
I think the answer is yes.
And does that make you like? Does that make the team better? Because that's what you're trying to answer.
The power play worked, converted. I'll say in game 1, looked terrible tonight.
Yeah,
couldn't generate chances. So that's literally the only downside to this. Is Kapanen a better player than Laine at 5-on-5? Are you kidding me? It's not a question.
Yeah,
it's Kapanen by a mile. So give the kid a chance. I think at this point you're kind of at a loss, especially if he's banged up. If that's all it is, and resting for a game or 2 to bring him back in later could do him some good, because someone else is going to get injured. Like, knock on wood, obviously, but like the way that the Capitals throw their bodies around and leave their feet becoming like basically missiles to hit someone, someone's going to get hurt. So like, he'll be ready for it at that point. I know everybody's going to be clamoring for it. I don't think it's likely.
Right. Okay. You're not there yet.
I mean, I don't know what to think anymore, man. I don't see the downside to it. So maybe I'm just attached to Laine's blast on the power play, and like, put Caulfield there, man. Move Demidov up and put Caulfield there and see what happens.
Patrik Laine has 1 power play goal in his last 16 games.
Yeah, exactly. You know what? Yeah, I'm on board. This is the way to go.
So
I say that like I have any say in it. Like, Marty, listen to us.
Big fan, known fan of This Week in Habs Land, Martin St. Louis. So listen, that's not going to solve all the issues, because on breakouts, it's still a travesty, and it's everyone is at fault. I thought there's some moment, like Caulfield had some moments in the first period where defensively he saves a goal really, really early on in the game. I think with like a little stick check, like Monty left the entire right side of the net open. And then like 30 seconds later, Caulfield just has a very like half-assed reversal around like behind the net, and it just like the Canadiens lose the puck immediately. And I still think they're so casual with trying to get the puck out of their zone, and that is where so many of the issues happen. There were multiple shifts today where they just get pinned in, and it's 45 seconds, and it happened to every line. The Suzuki line got caught in there a couple times. Some ups, some downs. Look, it was a close game.
That's a testament that's just a testament to Washington's forecheck and the consistency of it, and how all four lines can do it brilliantly well and then punish you when you screw up.
Yeah. I think also, like, ultimately the Canadiens, I think in both these games, have had a pretty good chunk of the puck possession. I'm looking at game 2. They had a 53% shot at 10% at 5-on-5. I don't remember exactly what game 1 was, but I'm pretty confident saying it was more or less right at 50%. But in both games, today was 45% expected goal percentage. And I believe in game 1, it was just under 40%. So they're having the puck, just Washington's being, this is what the more talented, skilled team does, they're more efficient with the puck. They take shots in higher danger scoring areas, and they do it more often. So the Canadiens might have more shot attempts, and they might have the puck basically the same amount of time as Washington, but they're not executing as well. So you have to give credit to Washington on that.
Of course. I mean, you had mentioned their goaltending as being their weak point.
Yeah.
Let's say. And now that he's playing well, all of the other parts of their game are just blossoming, and it's just so obvious. They play really well coached team. Just really well coached team. And if this is the team that has to knock us out this year, because 0-2, that's the way that it's looking. Certainly the statistics would tell you that. That's not a blemish on the trajectory of the Montreal Canadiens. Like, let's just make that really clear from this point. Like you said before, it's all gravy. Being here is gravy, and it's experience for these guys. Now come home and make the most of it. Now is really the big opportunity to do something here.
Yeah. Okay. So 2 final things maybe to mention before we wrap. I just want to make sure, like, the kneeing, I forget who it was on the Capitals that kneed Patrick Laine on a body check. How was that not a penalty? And then I already talked about the Caulfield cross check to the face / body slam. Those are the 2 to me. Like, I get it. It's the playoffs. And I'd like to look at it from maybe a bigger sample size once we get a little bit further in, of, like, compared to other series, how many power plays are getting called. But if there was a memo sent to the referees in this series to let a little bit more go, that is exactly what's happening. 30%, 40% more. They called interference, finally, but they're letting a lot of stuff go. But those 2, the kneeing on line A, and then the cross check to the face on Caulfield. There's another one on Gallagher, of course. Galley's getting one per game. That bugged me a lot. Did you want to talk about Jack Eye before we wrapped?
Yeah, actually. The liberties that are being taken at the moment and the lack of calls, I think, dictate that Jack Eye comes in. And before we said it was Struble, I'm wondering if it might be Savard now. Basically, it causes the first goal it was a sort of breakdown of the Canadiens' defensive system a little bit, but like McMichael kind of just on his own, Savard loses him while he has the puck, and he just has all the time and space to do whatever he wants there, and that just cannot happen flat out. Savard's looks slow. We need some physicality. Savard was actually fairly physical tonight, but I just don't think he's that effective anymore defensively. And I remember you had said, like, that's an incredibly difficult conversation to have, to take him out of the lineup, and a tough thing to do. If it's better for the team, they have to just make that call. And I think Jack Eye would be better for the team. I'm picking Savard now. Before we had picked Struble, would you have a preference if he were to come in, or do you want to just leave him out still?
I don't know. I was telling you before the game, I am a little bit more understanding of not playing Arbor Jack Eye. I've kind of come around on this. He is the most penalized player on the Montreal Canadiens per 60. So he is taking 2.23 penalties per 60 minutes in the regular season. Jaden Struble, who is like probably the closest comparator there, is 1.29. So it's 1 less penalty per 60 minutes. And Savard is much, much lower on that list. So, like, that is the worry. Now, you're playing Savard 8 to 10 minutes at 5-on-5. The worry, I think, really is what if all of a sudden there's a 4 power play game and Savard's the number 1 guy on your penalty kill right now from the defensive standpoint. It's him and Matheson. That's, I think, where it comes down to with St. Louis. He doesn't want to disrupt too much on the PK, and he's worried Jack Eye, who, let's be honest, there is a track record of him losing his head in the third period,
of course,
taking stupid penalties and putting the team in the hole. I know that was the entire preseason, but it's also happened in the regular season in years past. I think that's where the concern is. But also, like, to your point, it's amazing how much of this season and the problems this season have been solved by the Canadiens not playing bad players. Caden Primo, goodbye. Justin Barron, goodbye. You know, even tonight, the fourth line, get out of here. And
having no patience for a lack of effort or a lack of consistency.
Yeah, I mean, like even like Kirby Doc, like there's just like really thinking about it, when they just don't play their bad players, they become a better team. There's just not enough good players yet. And I've said that, right? Like this is the team they have for this year. We have to accept all the warts. What do you do with Savard and Jack-Eye Struble? Like I'm happy I don't have to make that decision, because I reiterate, it is impossible for St. Louis to win this one. Unless you win the series.
Yeah, unless you
You're
win
cooked.
the series. Whatever you did to win the series, kudos to you. Jack-Eye isn't going to get called for a lot of the stuff that he was being called for in the regular season, assuming the refs stay consistent, which that's a pretty big assumption when it comes to the NHL. But if the tone has been set and they've at least been consistent through 2 games that most of the rough stuff is going to get let go, I don't see the harm. I don't see them calling Jack-Eye on any of that stuff. Like that's the type of stuff that he does, right? I would be more concerned with a hook, a trip, a very obvious alteration of the play or possession change due to you doing something like that, and a stick infraction. The checking, I think he would be great at. I agree with you. I don't think it's going to be an easy call at all. This is a really hard decision. They're coming back home. I don't foresee the penalties being called anymore at home versus on the road. And I just think it's time, man. It's time to kind of hit back. We've been on our heels in the physicality realm the entire series, basically. I just think it's time to punch back with something. Michael Pezzetta replaces Patrick Laine. And no,
I just made I went on a whole monologue about not playing your bad players.
Yeah, exactly.
And here you are talking about Michael Pezzetta.
Yeah.
So,
oh man. Yeah, thus concludes the most depressing This Week in Habsland episode maybe ever.
Oh, no. Like we can dig into the tapes into the 23 season when Alex Belzale's game was a 15-minute focus, and did Anthony Richard have a future on the team? That was literally like 24 months ago. Calm down.
Yeah.
So
that's incredible.
We're going to be
all right. Hey, I feel
fine.
Good again. Thanks, Jordan. That's awesome. I'm going to prompt you like that at the end of every episode. Oh man, it's really getting tough now. We must be close to rock bottom.
Yeah, and I'll talk to you about Noah Juleson and Victor Mete as the defensive pair of the future. So ultimately, Habs are down 0-2. That is the reality. Series is not over. They come back home on Friday night. They've been in both these games. I know there was an empty netter, but it's been 2 very close 1-goal games. Habs hit a post in the third. Probably should have gotten a goal. Even Monday night, game 1 was a coin flip. The series, I do think Washington's been the better team, but the series could absolutely, probably more deservedly, should be 1-1. So we'll see what happens as the page turns into Montreal. We'll wrap it at that. You can find us on social media at HabslandPod. And until Friday night, go Habs.